Good morning, evening, or night. Wherever you are, welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Sunday, 20th July 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. China is facing scrutiny as its embassy refuted claims, linking it to an espionage group accused of attacking Singapore's critical infrastructure, dismissing them as groundless smears and accusations. Economically, China quietly issued its 2025 rare earth quotas, a key indicator for the global supply of 17 elements, vital for electric vehicles, wind, turbines, robots, and missiles. However, Biden's monthly car sales have stagnated, with expectations of continued sluggishness during the summer. Chinese officials have urged carmakers to regulate price increases, aiming to establish standards for a fair market, particularly for new energy vehicles. Next, China's financial regulators have initiated measures to stimulate growth in the hard tech sector. But freedom of movement within China has raised concerns. A U.S. Department of Commerce worker was prevented from leaving the country, a recurring issue in U.S.-China relations. Similarly, China confirmed it barred Chen Mao, a senior Wells Fargo executive and U.S. citizen, from leaving due to a criminal case investigation, leading Wells Fargo to suspend all business travel to China. A Japanese businessman allegedly faced pressure from Chinese authorities to confess to spying in exchange for a reduced charge. These incidents, along with reports of a second U.S. government employee being blocked from leaving, have increased anxiety among foreign businesses as Beijing seeks overseas investment. Wells Fargo is one of 6 global banks that processes dollar-denominated payments for China's exports and imports. China's top administrative body has launched a nationwide initiative to overhaul its bureaucracy, aiming for greater efficiency in government services for businesses and citizens. A new airport project is underway in Hegging, a Rust Belt city near the Russian border, following years of stagnation and population decline. In a high-stakes attempt at economic revival, China continues to invest heavily in renewable energy, planning to add a record 500 gigawatts to its national power grid, contrasting with the Trump administration's actions. In scientific and technological developments, Chinese startup Spink anticipates quantum computing will be useful for solving real-world problems in 3-5 years, producing small-scale NMR quantum computers for educational use and industrial-grade superconducting quantum computing. A joint China-Singapore research team is developing a cancer nanovaccine showing promising results in animal tests, reducing tumor regrowth and spread more effectively than existing treatments. The nanovaccine targets both regular cancer cells and cancer stem cells, CESCS. Furthermore, Chinese and Brazilian scientists have discovered the first evidence of a plant-eating pterosaur, reigniting debate among paleontologists. China's Ministry of Commerce voiced strong opposition to the EU's sanctions on 2 Chinese banks, vowing to protect the interests of Chinese companies. China and Vietnam are set to conduct their first joint army training exercise in southern China's Guangxi-Zhuang Autonomous Region, deepening military ties despite territorial disputes. Analysts suggest China needs to cooperate more effectively with the Global South on AI governance to counter US moves to hobble its technological progress, potentially allowing China to shape global norms and rules around AI. 10 officials in China's Gansu province are under investigation for oversight failures after the Provincial Disease Control Agency and a hospital were discovered to have falsified test results during a major kindergarten lead poisoning scandal. Shangri-La Group has launched its super-luxury hotel brand in mainland China, Shangri-La Signatures, aimed at attracting wealthy tourists with unique cultural experiences amid a rebound in demand for leisure experiences. Turning to Hong Kong and Macau, Typhoon Waifa caused significant disruption, toppling trees, disrupting flights and public transport, and causing damage. The typhoon made landfall in mainland China with winds comparable to a Category 1 Atlantic hurricane. In the United States, the Trump administration has eased its stance against China, reversing its position on technology controls as the president seeks a trip to China later in the year. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer met with Chinese officials in Geneva in May. Across the Atlantic, the European Union has sanctioned 2 Chinese banks, prompting strong opposition from China's Ministry of Commerce, which vowed to take action to defend the interests of Chinese companies. Australia's political landscape is currently focused on Tasmania, where the recent election resulted in a hung parliament. The Liberals secured 14 seats, while Labour obtained 9. The Independents now hold the crucial balance of power. Premier Jeremy Rockcliffe is actively negotiating for crossbench support. Meanwhile, Labour's Dean Winter expressed openness to forming a coalition with the Greens and Independents. Transitioning to federal matters in Australia, former Queensland Judge Walter Sofronoff is challenging findings of serious corrupt conduct in federal court. He stands accused of leaking his report on the Bruce Lehrmann prosecution. Sofronoff's defense maintains his actions were in the public interest. In environmental news, a pollination report exposed a disconnect between Australian companies' climate commitments and investment decisions. The analysis reviewed climate disclosures from 12 major companies. Shifting to social policy, Victoria's Premier Jacinta Allan announced a state register for childcare workers. This action follows revelations of alleged pedophile Joshua Dale Brown's employment history. Allan criticized existing childcare regulations as inadequate, calling for improvements. Ukraine faced renewed Russian aggression as drone and missile strikes hit Kyiv, causing at least 1 fatality and injuring 6 Italian. The attacks impacted a metro station used as a shelter, sparking fires in 4 districts where rescue teams and medics are actively working. President Volodymyr Zelensky has proposed reviving peace talks with Russia. This follows President Trump's agreement to facilitate the transfer of air defense weapons to Ukraine and his threat of sanctions on Russia's trading partners. Ukraine aims to increase its domestic arms production, seeking financial aid to become more independent in weapons manufacturing. Turning to the United Kingdom, Labour MP Emily Thornberry is calling for the UK's recognition of a Palestinian state. She believes a political solution is crucial to ending the ongoing conflict in Gaza, which has led to over 58,000 Palestinian deaths since October 7, 2023. In another matter, the children of Barbie and Peter Reynolds, a British couple imprisoned in Afghanistan by the Taliban, are pleading for their release after 5.5 months of detention without charges. They were arrested in February while traveling to their home in Bamiyan province. In the United States, President Trump has committed to facilitating the transfer of air defense weapons to Ukraine and warned of sanctions against nations trading with Russia. This development follows discussions by former defense official Jim Townsend emphasizing the significance of the new agreement to send weapons to Ukraine. Iran is currently navigating a complex landscape of international negotiations and domestic crises. Nuclear discussions are slated for Friday in Tehran with the E3, Britain, France, and Germany. These talks involve the remaining parties to the 2015 nuclear deal, including China, France, Germany, Russia, and the UK, amidst European threats to reinstate sanctions. Simultaneously, Iran is battling a severe heat wave. This has led to acute water shortages, especially in Tehran, where reservoir levels have reached a century low, with temperatures soaring above 50 degrees C. A fire also broke out at Iran's largest and oldest oil refinery in Abadan, resulting in 1 death and several injuries. However, operations are reportedly continuing despite existing sanctions. On the defense front, Iran has replaced its air defense systems that were damaged in a conflict with Israel. They have deployed domestically produced Bavar 373 and Cordad 15 systems. Indonesia is grappling with multiple challenges, including a deadly ferry fire off the coast of North Sulawesi that claimed at least 5 lives. The disaster occurred as the ferry traveled towards Manado, prompting a large-scale rescue operation that saved 568 people after passengers were forced to evacuate into the sea. Separately, the nation faces environmental concerns as haze from Sumatran forest and peatland fires drifts across the border into Malaysia. Further inland, questions are mounting over the future of Indonesia's new capital city project in Borneo, where issues like prostitution and gambling are emerging, casting shadows on President Prabowo Subianto's for a smart forest city. Gaza, Israel is witnessing intensified conflict as the Israeli military launched a ground operation in Deir al-Balah, resulting in casualties amidst claims that Hamas is holding hostages there. Tragically, the Gaza Health Ministry reported numerous Palestinian deaths from Israeli fire while they awaited on aid, leading Pope Leo XIV to decry the barbarity and indiscriminate use of force in the Gaza war, citing reports of at least 93 fatalities. Israel is also contemplating replacing the UN aid system with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, GHF, a move viewed by some as a potential tool to politicize aid and possibly depopulate parts of Gaza. The situation remains volatile, with Al Jazeera reporting gunfire endangering their reporter Tarek Abu Adzoum during the Israeli operation in Deir el-Balah. Turning to Israel, a Haaretz report indicates that the government plans to finance a tour for 16 social media influencers aligned with Trump's MAGA and America First movements. Japan's political landscape has shifted as Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba vows to stay in power despite his coalition's recent loss of its upper house majority. The Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, and Komeito did not secure the needed 50 seats. This is the first time since 1955 that the LDP has lost its majority in both houses. Ishiba is set to lead tariff negotiations with the United States. The election saw a record 42 women elected to the House of Councilors, exceeding the 2022 record of 35. Furthermore, the right-wing populist party Sancito, led by Sohei Kamiya, gained 14 seats. Turning to China, Shi Yuqi, a former world #1 badminton player, claimed victory at the Japan Open. He defeated French defending champion Alex Lanier in the final, with scores of 21-17 and 21-15. South Korea is grappling with the aftermath of severe rainfall, which has triggered landslides and floods, resulting in at least 17 fatalities and 11 individuals missing. The town of Gapyeong County, east of Seoul, experienced the worst of the deluge, recording nearly 170 mm of rainfall. Houses were buried by landslides and vehicles were swept away by floodwaters. Adding to public discourse, a hyper-realistic AI-generated video depicting Seoul's Gyeongbokgung Palace underwater has ignited worries about the potential misuse of AI to disseminate false information. This video was posted on the YouTube channel Golpata. Meanwhile, a South Korea-led inquiry into a Jeju airplane crash last December found that pilots mistakenly shut down the less damaged engine after a bird strike, offering clear evidence about the cause. In diplomatic developments, sources indicate that Donald Trump and Xi Jinping may meet in South Korea around the time of the October APEC summit, although Trump's spokesperson has not confirmed these discussions. Germany was the scene of a chaotic car accident in Bomti, where a vehicle careened off the road, injuring several people. The car's erratic path included hitting a child on a trampoline, crashing into a parked car, breaking through a hedge, and ultimately ending up on its side against a barn roof. Turning to France, the nation mourns the loss of Jean-Pierre Azéma, a distinguished historian and writer. Azéma was renowned for his detailed chronicles of French collaboration with the Nazis during World War II, a body of work that significantly challenged previously accepted narratives of the Vichy regime's resistance. Across the Atlantic in the United States, Papa Jake Larson, a D-Day veteran, has passed away at the age of 102. Larson survived heavy German fire on Normandy's beaches in 1944, and later became a TikTok star, amassing 1.2 million followers by sharing his wartime experiences and paying tribute to those who died in service. India's relationship with Malaysia is highlighted by the 3.03 million tons of palm oil India purchased in 2024, making it Malaysia's largest importer of germinating oil palm seeds, accounting for 17.9% of Malaysia's total palm oil exports. India's relations with China are also seeing renewed focus, as the Chinese ambassador to India expressed optimism that reviving the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, with the addition of direct flights, would strengthen ties. The ambassador characterized the border situation as stable and indicated a willingness to refine border management and control rules to address existing differences. In legal news, an Indian High Court acquitted all 12 individuals accused in the 2006 Mumbai train blasts, who had already served nearly 2 decades in prison. Ecuador extradited José Adolfo Macias Villamar, alias Fito, a leader of an Ecuadorian drug gang, to the United States after his recapture in late June. He had escaped from a high-security prison over a year ago. Macias, known for using hitmen, bribes, and military weapons, was indicted in New York City in April. The charges relate to importing thousands of pounds of cocaine into the U.S. He is scheduled to appear in court on Monday. Pakistan is grappling with the aftermath of a brutal honor killing in Balochistan province, where authorities have apprehended 11 individuals. These arrests stem from the alleged murder of a man and woman who were shot dead last month. A local tribal council purportedly ordered the killings because the couple married against their family's wishes. The gruesome incident gained widespread attention after a video circulated showing the woman holding the Quran shortly before her death, triggering a thorough investigation. In Vietnam, a tourist boat capsized in Ha Long Bay, Quang Ninh province, northeast of Hanoi during a sudden storm. The boat carried 46 passengers, including at least 20 children, and 3 crew members on a sightseeing tour. While 10 people were rescued, the death toll has risen to at least 38, and several individuals remain missing as rescue operations continue. Malaysia's judicial system is currently considering Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's appeal for legal immunity in a civil sexual harassment case, a matter that has drawn considerable public attention. The Court of Appeal has ordered a temporary halt to the proceedings, granting Anwar the opportunity to raise a constitutional challenge pertaining to the lawsuit. Meanwhile, in Johor State, Malaysian authorities are engaged in a manhunt for a suspect involved in a recent shooting. This incident is part of a concerning trend of increasing gun-related violence in Malaysia, with multiple deaths reported in brazen public attacks. Israel has faced accusations of attacking Palestinian religious sites, including Gaza's only Catholic church, and desecrating Muslim cemeteries. Simultaneously, dozens of Palestinians lost their lives in Gaza on Sunday, while attempting to secure food aid, marking a grim milestone as one of the deadliest days for aid seekers in recent months. Syria has seen a tentative calm return to Swaida province after a week of intense clashes between Druze militias and Bedouin groups. The violence resulting in a reported death toll exceeding 1,000 involved militias representing the Druze religious minority and Sunni Muslim clans. Following a ceasefire agreement, Bedouin fighters have retreated from the Druze majority city. The outbreak of violence has posed a threat to Syria's delicate post-war recovery. Turkey's leader reaffirmed support for a two-state resolution in Cyprus, marking the 51st anniversary of its military action. Shifting focus, Bulgarian authorities seized cocaine en route to Turkey, revealing continued drug trade concerns. Kenya faced significant unrest as protests against President William Ruto's administration on June 25th resulted in at least 19 fatalities. The demonstrations, originally intended to commemorate victims of police brutality from a similar protest the year before, escalated into broader grievances against the current government. The turmoil led to the arrest of prominent Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi, who now faces serious accusations of facilitation of terrorist acts related to his involvement in demonstration. Okay, great. That's a perfect example. Now, I'm ready for the actual text you want me to summarize. Please provide the news articles or text you want me to work with. The Mediterranean Sea is facing a dire situation as a severe marine heatwave intensifies, especially near Mallorca, where sea surface temperatures have consistently surpassed 30 degrees C since late June. This alarming trend, attributed to the human-induced climate crisis, poses a significant threat to marine biodiversity due to the escalating intensity and duration of these heat waves. Brazil's Supreme Court has ordered former President Jair Bolsonaro to wear an electronic ankle monitor. Meanwhile, the Brazilian automotive sector is experiencing a transformation. Great Wall Motor and Bide, both Chinese car companies, are building plants in Brazil. They aim to produce budget-friendly electric and hybrid vehicles. This comes as traditional automakers like Ford and Mercedes scale back their operations in the Brazilian market. Venezuela is facing increased economic hardship as inflation continues to rise amid tightened sanctions. The government is struggling to stabilize the economy, which relies on a dual currency system where many transactions are conducted in US dollars, even though people are often paid in bolivars. Argentina's history is explored in Haley Cohen Gilliland's book, A Flower Traveled in My Blood, which focuses on the abuelas of the Plaza de Mayo and the country's stolen children. Turning to Canada, Indigenous communities are actively challenging the rapid approval of mine and energy projects, citing concerns over insufficient consultation and potential environmental damage. Meanwhile, tensions escalate between Thailand and Cambodia, as Thailand accuses Cambodia of planting landmines following injuries sustained by 3 Thai soldiers patrolling the border on July 16. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, representatives of the DRC and the Rwanda-backed M23 rebels signed a declaration in Qatar, pledging a permanent ceasefire to resolve the ongoing conflict in eastern Congo. As part of a U.S.-Venezuela accord, Venezuelan migrants imprisoned in El Salvador have been released and arrived in Venezuela at Simon Bolivar International Airport, near Caracas. Over 260 individuals were released from prisons in El Salvador and Venezuela. In the Pacific, the Fiji coach alleges that New Zealand rugby contracts restrict players from representing Pacific nations, a claim disputed by New Zealand Rugby, which asserts that players can freely choose their representation under international eligibility regulations. The Guatemalan government has denied reports that a Chilean green card holder was deported from the United States to Guatemala. Shifting to Mexico, protests have broken out in Mexico City due to escalating real estate prices, with protesters blaming the upcoming World Cup for fueling speculation. In the Philippines, Coast Guard divers, using a remotely operated submersible, retrieved 5 sacks of suspicious objects from Taal Lake after whistleblower Julie Dondon Patidongan provided key information. Serbia is facing a severe drought in the Balkans, leading to a critical water shortage for over 1,000 cows and horses on a mountain in the southeast, prompting emergency water deliveries by authorities.